for today's video we are going to be doing something that pretty much no one asked for. I asked in my first impression video using the Chakras palette by Bruja Beauty if any of you wanted to see more looks, and I had like 2 people say you wanted to see more looks, which basically means nobody. Not that I'm trying to discredit the 2 of you who did ask, but as a creator standpoint, it's not really a video that I should be making, but I just want to play more with this palette, and it probably won't get a lot of views, so if you're here, it means you really love me, and I love you back, and I hope that you are going to enjoy me playing with this palette, so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to just start, I guess. I'm going to start by priming with my Natasha Denona eyeshadow base. So if you didn't somehow watch my first impression video with this, I said in my video that I thought at first that the mattes were going to be a little bit hard to work with because they swatched like shit, but then I got pleasantly surprised when I used them and they seemed to perform very well. But I did also use a new brush set from Alter Ego when I tried out the palette in my first impression, which means that I don't really feel like I have a good grasp of how this palette really performs because I didn't use my normal brushes. And I mean, I guess I did use my normal technique, but I didn't do what I normally do when I do my eye makeup with a new palette. So I do just want to give this palette a little bit of a second chance. I also said in that video that I wasn't really impressed by the shimmers, and looking back at the footage, it's weird, like this happens a lot. Like when I look back at the footage after saying that a shimmer is not that nice, it looks a lot better on camera than it does in real life because of the lights kind of reflecting back on the shadows, making them look a little bit more sparkly and intense than they really are. But in real life, the shimmers in this palette are just very lackluster. Like I don't even know if I'm going to be able to really show you, but if I give you a swatch of say this orange here, and I think I may have touched the black next to it before I did that, but let's do this one as well. And you can see just like on my fingers, like just how flat those shadows are compared to like say other shimmers that I have in my collection. Like this is barely even a satin, and I don't know if the brand meant for the shadows to be this way because it's one of the things that really annoy me sometimes is that the products aren't really described as in like who is this for, like who will like this formula? What is the formula supposed to be like? What kind of looks are you supposed to do with this kind of formula? It's just like, here's a palette. And sometimes I wish their brands would be a little bit more specific, not only in their marketing images, but also like, you know, providing swatches, which there were no swatches at all when this palette launched, and I still don't think they posted swatches. So yeah, I don't know. I just wish that brands would be a little bit more like upfront about what their formulas are actually like, which I feel like they did a decent job on their website. They did say that some of these are a little bit on the sheer side. Enough talking, let's go ahead and play with this palette a little bit more. So I want to play with some of the tones that I didn't really feel like I touched in my first impression video, and I used the red, the black, the purple, and the 2 blues, and a little bit of this orange. I do think I want to kind of play in like this orange family right here still because, I don't know, I want something that's kind of gonna go with like my headband, which is pink, and my earrings, which are pink, so I probably need to pull in a little bit of pink here somewhere, even though you look at this and you're like, where's the pink? But this red is honestly more like a pink than anything else. I also want to test out the yellow, so maybe we can start with the yellow. Maybe I'll do like a yellow orangey crease and then kind of take it from there and see what happens. So I'm gonna dip into Solar Plexus, and I'm just gonna go ahead and put this into my crease. This is my reference number 14, I'm pretty sure. This is one of the prototypes that don't have like the actual name on it, but I still think that this is the 14 brush. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to build this up in my crease here and see how intense we're gonna be able to get this. And then I want to use the orange and kind of build that on top to see if these shadows actually build. So far, pigmentation on the yellow is not great. It's taken a very, very long time to get anything really out of this. It's looking a lot darker in the pan. I feel like this is probably one of those kind of sheer shadows. Again, it does seem to build very nicely, which I had that experience in my first impression video as well. Just gonna kind of blow this out here. I don't really have much of a plan, if I'm being honest, with these shadows and these looks. I just want to play a little bit more with this palette, especially the mattes, to see how I really feel about them. So I feel like this looks okay. It's by no means the best yellow that I have in my collection, but it's not that bad. So this is taking a very, very long time to build up here. I kind of want to just keep this look very simple and just on the yellowy orangey side. So I actually think what I want to do is I want to just put that orange shimmer all over my lid and then maybe try to do like some kind of a graphic liner with a pink or something on top of it, like above my crease, using one of the lethal liners. Like maybe that could be kind of fun. So I'm just gonna kind of go ahead and put this all over my lid just so I can have a base for that other yellow shimmer. And then maybe I'll do the orange under my eye so we can test out that shadow as well here. I know I said I was going to maybe build a orange on top of this, but then my plan changed and my mood changed, and here we are. So I am pulling this shadow up very high because, like I said, if I'm gonna go ahead and do some kind of a graphic liner like on top of the hood of my eye, I gotta make sure that I have yellow like pretty much all the way up so that I get to put the liner on top of a shadow. So I do think this is a nice shadow for just like an all over the eye kind of look, and it does blend out quite nicely. So I'm gonna next grab the shade Orange Calcite, which I know I used in my first impression, but I just want to have like a little something on my lid, even though I already know that this shade isn't going to be like anything special. But I'm gonna use a little bit of my NYX glitter primer here, and then we're just gonna go ahead and do a bit of a orangey smoky eye. And I don't know if I, in the beginning of the video, said how many looks I was going to do, but I'm only going to do 2 more looks with this because, I don't know, I want to start doing 2 looks with some palettes as well and not just have it be like 3 or none. Because some palettes I feel like I don't need to do 3 more looks with, but maybe I want to just like get to know the formula a little bit more. And like those 3 look videos take a very long time, not only to film, but also to edit. I'm going to go into that orange now, so I want to have the option to just, you know, if I feel like it, maybe just do 2 looks instead of doing 3 looks. And I also just feel like doing 1 more look with a palette is not really that helpful, you know? And I feel like people are just more likely to click on a second video using something if it's more than 1 look. I don't know, I could be wrong. Let me know how you feel about that. So I am just kind of packing this all over my lid as well as into my crease a little bit here because, like I said, this isn't a very shimmery eyeshadow, so if there's ever a time that I don't mind kind of blending something into my crease, it's when I do have a satin. And I mean, I don't really think this looks bad by any means. And then next up, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the shade called Sacral, which is the orange, and I'm just gonna go ahead and smudge that under my eye here. And then we're gonna try to do some kind of a liner. I haven't really decided like what it is that I wanna do yet, but I don't know. I just wanna try to play and do something a little bit different today. So I like this orange more than I like the yellow matte. This is going on my eye very nicely despite not having an eyeshadow primer under my eye. Okay, so this looks kind of bare and like it's missing a little bit of something, at least in my opinion. So I'm gonna grab the shade called Big Crush from Lethal. This is their pink gel liner, and we're gonna try to do something with this. Let me just like browse on Instagram for a bit and see if I can find something that might work on my eyes. Actually, you know what? Maybe I have an idea. I'm gonna grab, let's see, I have some of these paint brushes that I got on Amazon a very, very long time ago. I'm gonna maybe try to use one of these because they are very thin and I feel like it would be nice used for like a graphic liner. For like an actual liner on top of my eye, I prefer something a little bit stiffer, but I think for this, it's going to be better to use something that's maybe a little bit softer. Like I have no idea what I'm doing right now, so this is going to be the end of the tutorial part of this video. So I think what I want to do is I want to draw a small line like in the beginning portion of my crease and then do a bit of a, not a wing, but just like a triangle where my wing would normally be, if that makes sense, and just have it be like an open floating triangle. I don't know if that's gonna look, it's probably gonna look crazy, let's be real. But let's go ahead and try that. So I'm gonna start in the inner portion of my lid here and kind of draw just like a half circle above the hood of my eye. So I'm probably going to have the mirror in the way the whole time. And if you can't see anything, I'm sorry, but you'll see it when I'm done at least. Like, I just feel like I'm so out of my comfort zone trying to do anything like this because it's just not what I normally do. mean, it looks kind of even, doesn't it? I feel like it looks kind of even. Now, what I want to do on the outer edge, on the other hand, is probably what's going to mess this look all up. So let's go ahead and try. I'm gonna start by basically, I'm so bad at explaining what it is I'm trying to do when I'm doing this, but I'm basically gonna take this liner and draw up from my lower lash line and kind of follow the angle of this up above the hood of my eye here, keeping my eye open. Just gonna angle it up against my brow or towards my brow. Like so, and then I think I'm gonna just flick it in a little bit. I don't want it all the way in. I'm kind of gonna follow the line that I have going on here and meet that up, just leaving a little bit of room like in the middle. Like so maybe? Does that look kind of cool? I feel like that looks kind of cool. I don't know, maybe I'm gonna connect this to my lid as well, even if I'm not gonna fill it in or anything, just to not have a floating line here. I don't know, I kind of think I like it. Let me go ahead and try to do the same on the other eye. Wow, look at me with my graphic liner. Oh god, I don't know, you guys. Let me know if you like it or not. I think it looks kind of cool. Like, it's different. It's not what I normally do. So I think this is where I'm going to leave it. Do I want to draw a pink line like on my top lid as well? I don't think I do. I think I want this to be more of like a, I don't know what I'm trying to get at. I'm gonna finish my eyes and I'll be back. Okay, so the eyes are done and I decided to go with purple in my waterline. I mean, you can't really see it. If I had a color that was like my hair color, I probably would have gone with that, but I just didn't feel like I had that many options. I don't know, I still kind of like it. I mean, does it go with like my headband now and my earrings? I feel like the liner looks a lot more orange than it does pink. But I don't know, I still kind of like it. Let's go ahead and finish off the face. I already do have some bronzer on. I'm using my Natasha Denona Mini Bronze and Glow, which I have such a big dip in this now. I feel like I'm probably gonna hit pan on this pretty shortly, which I never hit pan on anything, so that's exciting. For my blush, I want to use the California blush by Benefit. I have one of the minis. This is the one that comes in a box. It's just like a corally blush, and I just think that it would look really cute with this very nice and summery look. Like, I really feel like most people either love or hate blush. And so when I go ham on my blush, I feel like so many people are probably sitting there thinking like, no, it looked so good before, but like, I don't care. At least I'm not really getting any comments on my blush, so it can't be that bad, right? For highlighter, I want to use my Lime Crime highlighting palette. This is the Opals one. I'm gonna grab the shade right here called Peach. If you guys ever see these Lime Crime highlighting palettes on sale or at TJ Maxx or something, pick one of them up because they are so good and I feel like so underrated. I love how not natural they are, but just, oh, the texture of them is just so nice. And I'm gonna take a little bit of this in my inner corner as well. Now this is by far the most subtle color in this highlighting palette, just if you're sitting there thinking like that's not all that intense, but that's kind of why I like it, is that there are kind of different formulas in this palette and some are more intense than others, but they are also just kind of wearable, you know? Like, I don't like to really use that term, but sometimes you have highlighters that require like a certain look to kind of go with them, but I feel like these you can really wear with whatever look you want and it's just going to look nice. So I think for lips, I'm going to use one of the lippie sticks from Colourpop. I kind of swatched it on my hand here and it's pretty similar to my hair color. This is in the shade New Rules. It's one of the matte ones. I don't know if these are available anymore, but I'm gonna go ahead and put this on and see if I like it with this look. Might have to change it after, but I think it's going to be like a decent match. So I think this is okay with the look. I mean, there are so many like pinks and purples and oranges and reds going on that I feel like no matter in that realm, is that a word? I think that's a word. And like, it would look nice, you know? So I think this is going to be look number one. I actually quite like the liner. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't sure I was gonna be able to pull it off, but I think it's like even enough on both sides that I'm not mad at it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you want me to try to do more kind of things like this. I don't know. Let's just go into the second look. So I'm thinking for the second look, I already primed my eyes. I used my Natasha Denona eyeshadow base. I'm thinking for this look, I definitely want to use the green. I haven't used the green yet. I want to try that out. I remember it not swatching very well, so I definitely want to test it. I also want to play a little bit more with this dark blue, as well as maybe this dark kind of satiny blue as well. Not really sure, but I think that's kind of like where I want my crease to go. So I'm first going to start off by taking the shade Heart, which is the green shade. So let's just go ahead and put this in my whole crease, and then I'm going to try to deepen it up with the blue, because I do want to see just how well these are going to build on each other, because in my first impression I felt like they were quite buildable, but I also used brushes that I'm not really used to using, so I just want to see like how well they're going to perform using better brushes, because I personally feel like the brushes that you use make the biggest difference in how your eye look turns out in the end, and just the joy of the application is so much better if you have brushes that actually suit your eye shape. It's just kind of something that I've learned over time, that brushes do make a difference in application, and it just makes everything so much easier if you're using the right sizes and shapes. I'm not saying you need to go out and buy like really expensive brushes, but just look a little bit more closely at the shapes that you are using. And if you find yourself thinking, oh, I'm having a hard time applying this shadow, maybe ask yourself why that is and what could be a better way to kind of fix that, and what it is that you are really wanting in your brush. Like maybe you're having a little bit of a hard time blending out a shadow. That could mean that your brush is just a little bit too fluffy and too flimsy, and that you're not getting enough kind of grip on your brush to be able to move the shadow around properly. So maybe you need something that's a little bit more denser, that's going to be able to really move the eyeshadow, instead of something that's super fluffy that's just going to diffuse it but it's not really doing the job, you know? Like it depends on the shadow as well, obviously, but sometimes the brushes can really help you out if you're struggling. And of course also the pressure that you do use with your brushes. I find that if you're using a very, very fluffy and flimsy brush, like no matter how much pressure you put on it, you're never going to be able to get so much control that you can kind of make your shadows do what you want them to do, if that makes sense. I sometimes find that having a bit more of a denser brush will help blend out shadows that maybe are a little bit harder to blend out. And it also just gives you a way more even application, at least in my experience. Now this green is going on the eye way better than I thought it would from how it swatched, which was kind of my experience with the other mattes in this palette as well. They are a little bit sheer though, and they do take a little bit of extra time to build up, which is fine as long as they do build. I have said in the past that I do prefer my shadows to be more pigmented straight off the bat, but I know that a lot of people like shadows that are more on the buildable side, so you might like these. So I think next I'm gonna go into the shade Third Eye, which was the dark blue. I'm just gonna use the same brush, and it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of green on it because it's gonna mix into the green anyway. So I'm first gonna start on the outer corner of my eye. I'm very curious to see if this blue is going to build. Trying to build a blue like this on top of anything is usually very, very hard and a lot to ask for from a shadow, because sometimes blues just tend to get really, really patchy, like regardless of the brand who makes them. Even if they usually make really good shadows, they tend to struggle to make a blue like this, and I'm seeing a little bit of patchiness already, but I'm gonna see if I'm able to kind of build this up and blend this out the way that I want it to. You know what? I'm not mad at this at all. I think this looks really, really nice. I don't know yet what I want to do on my lids though. I feel like since I've already kind of used all of the shades that I'm interested in shimmer-wise, the only shimmers that I really have yet to use is going to be this dark purple, this dark blue, and this kind of mauve-y pink. I don't know if that's how you would explain that, but I feel like with my crease, I don't really have a lot of things that's going to go with this. So I'm tempted to use a little bit of this purple just so I can try it. I'm not sure if it's really gonna go with the look, but story of my life though, when I'm trying to test out palettes, I'm trying every shade and not planning out every look in advance. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this on kind of like a packing brush here, and I am going to spray this a little bit just to make sure I don't have any fallout. Just a little bit to wet this. And then I'm gonna place that in the middle of my lid and blend it out into that blue. And I didn't use any glitter primer with this because I am going to kind of blend it into a lot of mattes here, so I just wanted it to be more of a blending shade. And also since I have used these with a glitter primer in the past and I know it doesn't really do all that much, I'm just going to kind of skip that step. Let's see, what do I want to do next? I think I'm actually gonna go ahead and take the shade here called Rose Quartz and just put that on the rest of my lid. And then maybe I can find some kind of a topper shade to lighten it up a little bit. It's not really as light as I like to go in my inner corner, but I also just want to try it. I just want to make sure that like all of the shimmers in this palette is the same formula. I'm pretty sure they are, but I just want to make sure that I have a good idea of how they're going to perform. I am going to spray this as you saw, and I'm just gonna put this in the first portion of my crease here, or on my lid, I mean. I will say that with these shimmers, at least they are nice and opaque. I do prefer that in my shimmers, that they're not sheer. Like I find that I could very easily kind of pretend like this was a half cut crease in the beginning of my lid here and have it cover that green very nicely without it getting muddy, which is always nice. That's what I look for in my shimmers. Like I still wish it had a little bit more just oomph, you know, but it's not that bad. Like I really think that there's a lot of people who would really like this palette. I'm just extremely picky and I know what I like, and so my preferences are definitely getting a little bit in the way of the way that I do review this palette, because I do know exactly what it is that I'm looking for in my eyeshadows. I think what I'm gonna do is just do the same thing under my eye that I have in my crease and just use the blue on kind of the outer portion of my lower lash line and then just smoke it out with the green. So I think that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do. Just kind of keep this, you know, nice and cohesive all the way around, and then I'll figure out if I want to do anything else on my lid. I'm thinking I want to just pull in like a little bit of something, you know, because I can't help myself. But let me go ahead and finish off with my lower lash line here first. I think also what I'm going to do, not because I feel like I have to, but I'm having a little bit of a hard time getting this blue to just stick on the outer corner of my eye. So I'm gonna go in with the shade Soda Light, which is this kind of dark satiny blue. And I'm just gonna take that over basically where I have the blue in my outer corner, as well as down to my lower lash line, because I feel like this is a good way to kind of use a satin, because I don't mind using satins in this way. I just don't really like to have them like on my lid. So I'm just gonna start by taking it first in the outer corner of my eye. Satins just tend to stick to your eye a little bit better, so I'm just going to use this as kind of the same way that I use that dark blue matte. And this is definitely sticking way better to my lower lash line here. And it's also blending out quite nicely. So that was very easy. That's a very easy fix if you're struggling to get shadows to stick on the outer corner of your eye or on your lower lash line, is to just use kind of like a shimmer shade on top of it. And usually satins work very well for that. Like I said, I didn't have to do this, but I just kind of wanted to test out this shadow as well, because I hadn't really touched it. And it basically did what I wanted it to do. So I think this looks quite nice. I should probably blend just a little bit here, but it's definitely not looking too bad at all. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a little bit of this kind of orangey yellow shade and pop that in my inner corner. Just because I don't really have any other options, because there's not really any other light shades in this palette, which is totally fine. I really enjoy having like an orangey yellow inner corner highlight, so I'm not mad at that at all. Alright, so I like how this is looking. I'm gonna go ahead and just finish off with my eyes, and then I'll come back and we can do the face together, and then we can talk a little bit more about this palette, because I definitely do have some thoughts, and I feel like I haven't really like spoken too well about how I feel about this yet, so let me just go ahead and finish off real quick. Alright, so the eyes are done. For my waterline, I actually mixed two of the lethal liners to create kind of like a turquoisey green. I really like it. It's more like a pastel greens, because there's not really any blue in it, but I mixed the white with green. This one is Buffer and this one is Equalize. Those made just like the perfect eyeliner. I'm so obsessed with these liners, you guys. I just can't help it. For lips, I used a lip liner by Haus. This is in the shade Endpoint. And then on top, I used one of my lethal glosses. This is in the shade Nova. And then for blush, I think again, I'm going to use my Sweet Peach blush from Ulta because I just love these. They are just so cute. The colors of these, oh man, I forgot to put on freckles again today. Do I want to do that now? I do want to do that now. Hold please. Now we can go in with a blush because my freckles are on. As usual, gonna be pretty heavy-handed with this because I love me a nice blushy look. And then I think for my highlighter, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I'm thinking I want to do maybe the pink one that I have from Bitter Lace Beauty because it's going to go very nicely with this blush. And I also think it's kind of going to tie in with my eyes. I can also use, you know what, maybe I'll use the purple one from Kaleidos. Maybe that's going to look better than the pink because I feel like I have more purple in my eyes. So I think I'm going to grab that one instead. So this one is my Moon Cruiser, like I said, from Kaleidos. And I think this is going to be better as my highlighter. So it definitely does lean a little bit blue, which isn't exactly what I was looking for, but I still think that I could have used the Ulta one as well. That one is also kind of on the purple side, but I think that this is going to look really nice. And just to tie everything together, I'm also going to take a little bit of this on my brow bone. Like you just saw, I did spray this a little bit because it does sometimes get a little bit crumbly, and I just didn't want to have too much fallout with this. And I'm being very light-handed here. I don't want a lot of this. I just want the tiniest amount. So I think this is where I'm going to leave it with the look. As you can tell, I didn't put anything extra like on my eyes or anything like this. I just wanted to keep it to the palette. So as for my thoughts on this palette, I don't think it's a bad palette. It's just not what I look for in my eyeshadow palettes. And like I said before, everybody has different preferences. If you like shadows that are more on the sheer side and more on the buildable side, and you don't like very metallic shimmers, you would probably absolutely love this palette because the shadows are nice and pigmented. The shimmers are nice and pigmented. They're opaque. They blend very nicely into mattes if that is something that you really like to do. Also, I feel like the mattes they're quite easy to work with, but they do take a little bit of time to build up. But if you like kind of like that sheer wash of color kind of look, you can do both. So I feel like this palette just depends on who is using it, you know. As someone like myself who has just used so many different eyeshadows and I've come to realize exactly what it is that I like in my shadows, it's not fair to this palette to give it a bad review just because it's something that's not my preferences. But it's not a palette that I am super excited about, but I also don't think it's a bad palette, if that makes sense. Also, the quality of the packaging is really, really nice. It's nice and sturdy. It's kind of thick. It also does have a nice mirror in it, as you can see. And like I said, it's a good palette. It's just not really like my favorite formula that I've ever tried, but I'm also not going to give it a bad review because the shadows performed well. So I guess that's where I'm going to leave it with this. Let me know if this is the palette that you would be interested in. I do think for being the brand's like first release, I think this is pretty solid and I'm excited to see what they come out with in the future. Let me know which look was your favorite. I think this look was my favorite, but I also really liked the first look. I really like the kind of graphic liner that I did with it, and I want to do more of that kind of stuff because that was fun. I really enjoyed that, and it was honestly a little bit easier than I thought it would be. So that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you want to see some other reviews that I have of indie brands, here's my playlist, and if you're new, I would love it if you would consider subscribing, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.